Now we're going to progress on to making really beautiful spiral components which can be used to create spiral details for charms, to hang off the base of earrings, and also can be used and manipulated to create spiral coils around beads. And this is a universal wirework shape. Taking a length of wire, you'll need to make an S-shaped spiral. Now it's always very difficult to get this right when you've got different shapes and sizes of beads, and you really want your spiral to be about the same size as your bead when you make it. So basically you'll have to use a test piece with a bit of scrap wire to help you get started, and then make all your rest of your wires the same length so you make sure your spirals are about the same. So to help you do that, fold a test piece of wire into two and make a spiral down. I'll show you how to make the spiral in a minute. And when your spiral reaches the same width as the bead, then you can stop. And then that excess bit of wire is what you've actually got to trim off this length to help you get half a length. I know it sounds complicated, but it'll work out in the end. Half a length for your wire that you'll need for all your spirals for your beads. And it's just one easy way of getting things even and uniform. So basically this length is technically your excess. So if you trim it off that end here, you've got half the length of the wire that you need. So you just make all the rest of your pieces of wire, double that length, minus this bit, you've got enough to make nice uniform spirals that will cover your bead. And that's one easy way. So we now want to take a length of wire and use it to make a spiral component and then an S-shaped spiral component. So we start at either end of the wire using the round nose pliers. Just make a little loop, and your loop needs to be big enough to fit your guide wire through, or anything you want to fit through the bead. So it's got to be enough to fit around the hole at the end of the bead so you can fit your wire through. And at the other end of the wire, make a loop in the opposite direction. Don't worry if you get this wrong, because you can always twist the wire back round in place afterwards to make the S shape. Then using the flat nose pliers, grip the loop and then start to kind of, I suppose, compress or fold the wire, or turn the wire around upon itself to start to make a spiral. Now I'm using a sort of scissor action with both hands moving to get as much movement out of the wire as possible. I'm pressing quite hard with my fingers to make the spiral, and you can see the flat nose element of the pliers is helping to hold the spiral in place as I move it to make it nice and flat in one plane and make sure the wires don't cross over each other. This part of the fingers I'm using to press around, and press the wire around as we spiral, and we turn the wire. You can see the movement that I'm making until this spiral is the same size as the bead. It's not quite there, but nearly so. But I'm just going to start to spiral from the other end, just so that they meet up in the middle. So again, using the same action, gripping the flat plane of the spiral with the flat nose pliers, pressing with your fingers round to create your spiral. We're nearly there. Bringing it up towards the central part where they almost cross over. You've got a nice spiral shape, like so. In a 20cm length of 1mm gauge wire, which I've checked will fit through my bead, I've made a closed loop. The next thing I'm going to do is make a little conical shape by pressing the inside of the spiral out slightly with the flat nose pliers. It just helps shape the wire around your bead when you place it on. I'm going to slightly bend the spiral into shape, then thread through the wire and hold the spiral near the end of the wire. Place the bead on and then pull this spiral component out so that it fits onto the other end. Then push down. I'm not going to do too much shaping yet because I'm just going to do the wrap loop at the other end, and then we will shape the spiral a little bit more because it's all sitting at one end, either end of the bead cap, and not really in the centre. So make another wrap loop at the other end. Flat nose, round nose first to shape it, flat nose and round a couple of times, just as tight as possible against the bead. Cut with the flush cutter pliers and tuck in. Now, I've got a spiral that looks very uneven. It doesn't look very nice, so we're going to shape this a little bit. So using your fingers, just pull the spiral around. You can use pliers if you don't want to damage your fingernails, but this wire is soft enough, and as long as you don't do this 100 times a day, you won't damage your nails too much, okay? But if you want to, just use pliers to help shape. That wire here is not straight, so using the flat pliers here, just crush this wire slightly so that it becomes straighter. You can see that has got a little bit of a kink in it, so just crush it slightly and it'll start to even that spiral out. It was just where the S shape of the spiral was, where it was crossing over. And here we've got just about a really nice spiral around a bead. Sometimes this spiral is quite loose around the bead, and you may want to create that effect. So simply grip with thumbs either side of the loop and twist one way, and you can see the spiral lifts away from the bead slightly. And you can create a beautiful effect that way. But if you want it to sit close against the bead so it doesn't catch on clothing, twist the other way.